Welcome to Soul Unscripted, the space where spirituality meets strategy and soul-led entrepreneurs come to remember who they are, why they're here, and what they're fully capable of creating. So I'm your host, Lindsay Grace. I'm a soul purpose mentor, intuitive business coach, and Akashic guide. And I'm here to help you bridge the energetic and the practical so you can build a business that feels as good as it looks. So each episode, we dive into the real, the raw, and the unscripted side of entrepreneurship, the initiations, the breakthroughs, the magic, and the mess, all through the lens of alignment, purpose, and truth. Because when you lead from your soul, you don't just build a business, you become the embodiment of your purpose. So take a breath, open your heart, and let's get today's episode going. And I am so excited to welcome today's guest. So Kacie Knight is here with me, and I have to say, started to do the whole intro, immediately fumbled my words. I knew this morning, throat chakra feeling a little bit, which, hey, you know what? It happens at times, but she just brought us in, oh, this beautiful, beautiful grounded space. So I am just feeling even more ready for where this conversation is going to go. So I'm going to hand it over to Kacie, and I want you to share what you want to share, introduce yourself how you want to introduce yourself, and what you feel called, because you're here to share.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to just chat about all of this stuff because the work that we do is really similar, and I adore conversing with healers and light leaders and soul workers and people who are doing this work in the world and chatting about like the magic and also the messy parts and just being really real. My journey has been from basically getting a prophecy that I would be a spiritual teacher to when I was 8 years old to forgetting about that, becoming a professional hula hooper and weaving in the spirituality and the mastery through movement. But then being told by the divine I have to bring my business online in 2019, about 9 months before COVID. And so I just went through this metamorphosis and learned how to drop my hula hoops and show up to share for the healers and the people who were going to be undergoing a spiritual acceleration to support them in their journey, bringing their work out into the world. And I do have a spiritual academy where I train professionally and personal development for healers and light workers and all of these new paradigm leaders to have the cosmic magic accessible, but then bringing it down to earth in really embodied ways so they can master their soul gifts and make more money in their business.
Yeah.
I do also have a modality that has been channeled through me called evolutionary alchemy that's very mystical and magical, but I then weave it into the practical and tactical because if we are just leaving all of the energy and the good feelings and that like divine experience up here and we never do anything with it, then nothing ever gets done.
I love that because that is all what my work is centered around. Because I mean, I know myself, I fell into that, right? It's up into the higher states of consciousness, which is fantastic. But let's be real. Our soul chose to come here and experience being human in the human bodies, grounded into the 3D and the physical. So it's that bringing it down. So I absolutely love that you support people that way because I mean, it's needed. Like, yes, there's that energetic component of business, but we need to ground it into the real world as well, too. Um, because the two need to really be married together. So I love that. Okay. So you said professional hula hooper. Like that's just, you know what? All the things from our journey, right? From our life that we bring, just even, I mean, we could go into the past lives, but just even in this life that we bring into and the flavor and stuff, I absolutely, I mean, it's just so cool. I love that. So
It's been such a marvelous part of my journey, and the skills that I learned through teaching and performing with hula hoops and other circus arts and things like that. And then I wove in like ecstatic dance facilitation and other things. There's a lot of personal mastery and self-expression that I learned how to facilitate, and I learned how to work really well with groups of people of all ages and how to facilitate a really stellar experience where it could be personal development and skill mastery all at the same time. And I was doing it with hula hoops. But what I do now is teach people how to bring those facilitation skills in or use them myself for business development and other kinds of personal expression and mastery. And they're really transferable skills, but I like to still bring in the fun and the joy and that like just that ability to dance with energies. So we do a lot of dancing in my business workshops and things like that too. Not with the
Um,
hoops, but
Always dancing over here. I say all the time, I'm like, I was meant to be a solo entrepreneur because if I was in an office, my coworkers would be looking. I mean, once upon a time, I did work in offices and everything, but 25 years as a entrepreneur. But I'm always dancing. I'm sitting here in my chair dancing with the music. I'm in my car dance. Like I'm standing and dancing. Like if there's a song, I'll run and turn it way up. And I love body movement and everything like that. So. Now, you touched on something that I was like, that is the most beautiful lesson for people. So, somebody would look at it and think, well, I mean, so I was a professional hula hooper. That doesn't have anything to do with what I do now. But everything, all of those bits actually all do come to play in your evolution and each layer, even if you're doing completely different work, you
Mhm.
might think it's completely different, but there's so much of that that you bring into everything else that you do. So I love that lesson for people. Like if they've got something from their past, maybe it was a job that they once had or an old business that they had that they think that's completely unrelated. It's not. And you're proof of that because I mean, supporting people this way from that, you would think no, but you beautifully marry them all together. So I love that.
Yeah, when I look back at my journey, it seemed like a lot of very different experiences, side quests, but every single one of them was training me to do what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I think we
Now,
we all need that hindsight, like I'm in my 40s, so now I can look back and be like, oh yeah, now this all ties together. But when I was 35, I was like, man, my life has been such a mishmash of weird side quests and adventures, and what is it all building towards? Now I know.
I have to ask because you deal with a lot of people and support them and everything like that. Do you see a little bit of a pattern of that? Because I feel with a lot of the people that I talk with, and I know myself too, I've owned a number of different businesses. They've all been fairly different from each other. Some online, some in person, some product based, some service based, you know, real actual like physical products to healing and energetics and all of that. And so there I've noticed and with you and what you do, I wonder if you notice like we seem to really truly be very multifaceted and have really journeyed into so many differing things. Like I know in human design, manifesting generators, like that would be them. I'm not a manifesting, I'm just a generator. So I should, but I still do that. So I have to wonder if those of us maybe on this path are doing that as well.
So I think there's a few different categories of people that really are drawn to entrepreneurship. And I think multidimensional people who've got an interest in wearing multiple hats tend to wind up in entrepreneurial roles. But there's also like two main categories of people. One is people who really like depth and they want to take one subject, one thing, and hone that skill as, deep and sharp as they can go. And then there's people who are more generalists who cross-pollinate multidisciplinarily, didn't say that, across multiple disciplines and different things. And they're taking the ideas from one to the other. I've heard that said as being cross-pollinators, and that gives us the more holistic view. And a lot of people have over the past few decades really bought into the specialization as being superior. And that's why, you know, doctors who are specialists make so much more money and things like that. And we have gone so into studying one area and being like, this is what we need, to the exclusion of having the global ecological holistic perspective. And now we're coming back into it. And what's really interesting is I remember my mom saying my dad was a generalist and he is an entrepreneur. And she was like, what did she say? It was like, jack of all trades, but master of none. And it would be a little derogatory, you know, like, you never really stuck to anything. The whole phrase is actually jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than, you know, the master of one.
Yes.
I was like, oh, the distortion in making people feel like being good at a lot of things was not a vibe. But look at what the Renaissance people that would be, you know, like a poet and a scientist and an author and a mathematician, and they were just doing all of the things. Like, let's bring more of that back. And I think we multidimensionally are just geared towards it.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, if somebody was to ask me, I would say that I was that first category. Hands down, I would say that I was that first category. But if you look at my journey, it's very clear I'm not that first category because I am the type, and it's in my soul's blueprint. Like, I love tools, I love learning new things. Give me the next little bit. Now, that can be to a detriment because it can pull me out of alignment and take my focus from what it'd be like, ooh, shiny, something new. I'm going to learn this, right? So I have zeroed in, but I fell into that. Like, at one point, I had learned my soul realignment work. I had learned human design, and then I was like, ooh, this is fun. Let's go into human design for business as well, too. So it was like not only my soul realignment work, then diving into being the, human design reader, which I never actually, I embody all of it in everything that I do when I help my clients,
Mm.
build in alignment. But and then it was like astrology, it was like all these different things, and at one point I was like, I'm gonna make my own, and then I realized, I'm like, okay, Lindsay, you are doing all the tools, zero it back in, and then from there it was like, okay, I started to, and again, I took the tools but developed my own framework kind of deal, right? So, but I would have always said that, no, I was this. If I look at I would think this, but again, when you look at my path, it's clearly not that way. So, but I love that when we are so multidisciplinary. I think I was about to just do what you did. We're making up our own words, but that's totally okay. Um, right?
So there's a secret third category that more and more people are falling into that we actually fall into. And this is me too. It's both breadth and depth. And these are the people on the mastery path who are not so like laser focused that they don't also have this curiosity about how everything interacts. And so I too I'll go so deep and geek out and hyper focus on one thing that I'm finding interesting at the time, but then I get enough of that and I'm like, okay, I know what I need to know from this. I'm not going to become the world's leading expert, but I'm going to be able to bring it and then bring it into something new. And then it's all about the alchemy, right? You get the tools and you get the pieces and you bring them together into your own framework in your own unique way. And like that's the magic secret sauce for entrepreneurship, I think, especially nowadays.
It really, really is. A business that I launched that I became quite successful in, unfortunately suffered a brain injury, for those of people who do know a little bit about my story. And, you know, but that brought me here. So everything happens as it should. But that business, that I did that with that. It was and when I look now at it too, it's so in my blueprint. Like, it is who I am. It's my divine gifts and stuff or whatever. So, but yeah, again, all of these bits and pieces all become part of our story that we need to actually embrace, because I think that it gives a layer of like showing that we're real, right? And there's, in the business world, which it's my education, like it's my thing, but it's the I've removed myself from the business, the strategy, the, like, the education that I receive, and because it's so in a box. And I've
Mhm.
learned that, like, as you know, right? the energetic side of it is so much more than the strategy of business. But in that business world, there is it's like the rules, the thing, all the thing, but that doesn't exist for us. Like we just need to, it's that giving yourself permission to do it your way, because that's where the magnetism comes in, right? So, oh, you have just such a beautiful like piece of all of the things that you bring. Like, what would you, I don't know, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, your nugget of advice. I don't love to ask questions in this. I really love to just, again, have conversations, but I feel like you have this, you could really drop in with beautiful kind of nugget of advice for somebody who maybe they're in a little bit of that space where they haven't quite landed in that grounded spot in their business. Like, like I said, shared at one point, it was like all the things, right? Well, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's like, oh, overwhelmed with all the things and need, again, not that there's anything wrong with that. And we will go through those cycles, right? I don't want to like just say that that's a no, but just to bring people back in and help them more focus on, okay, your way.
Yeah, there's so much that can be said about that because I've had my own journey of all of this too. My human design is I'm a 3/5, and I definitely have made more mistakes than, I can count. And some of that was doing too much at once. But I love to take the mistakes that I've made and then help people refocus. I've also made the mistake of going in and going, okay, I need to learn all the business stuff because that wasn't the background that I came from. And I started focusing too much on structures and strategies, forgetting that my magic is about channeling my own soul plan, blueprint, and actually speaking from my particular blend. But I had to forget and like veer off path to go, oh, actually, my way of helping myself and others reconnect to their unique soul voice and business plan and all of that is exactly what is needed in the world. So my advice to people that are in that, like, honestly, that like let's try it all out and like spaghetti at the wall a little bit is, first off, understand it is an essential part of the journey, I
Yeah.
believe, where we're trying things out to see what fits and what doesn't. And you can do everything and you can alchemize it all together, but you can't do it all at once. And if we are diffusing our energy into too many things all at the same time, then we lose the focus that we need. So I'm also a generator, but I was surprised I wasn't a Manny Gen. And then I looked into my sidereal human design and I'm a Manny Gen there. And I was like, okay, this all makes sense now because I love working with both systems. And when I focus on just one thing, my soul dies inside. I can't do just one thing.
Yeah.
But, if I get one thing going first and get that like into a rhythm that doesn't take as much energy, it can live on its own. And I bring in the structures and the strategies and the SOPs and a team to help me with it, and I can repeat it, then I can do the next thing and do the next thing. And it just fuels me to have multiple ways that I can serve people. And in retrospect as well, because I had that criticism, let's just say, from mentors, like, you're doing too much. When I look back, it was such an essential part of my journey because I was actually testing out my modality and how it would work in all of these different ways so that I could actually teach it to people who were going to go and use it in a multitude of different spaces and niches and things like that. So there was nothing wrong with what I was doing, but it wasn't the most direct path to success. But it was me gathering information, making mistakes, alchemizing it, and then having my path forward.
Okay. This conversation is so beautifully aligned because I was thinking about something yesterday, and it's we have done this stuff, right? We've fumbled, and we're all going to fumble, right? You're going to do things that are not going to work. You're going to make mistakes. It's part of it. Like, and so give yourself the okay that when it happens, just be like, yeah, okay, totally fine. Next thing, moving on, whatever, right? Learn from it, obviously, but then, move on. But being in the space where, again, trying all the things, the throwing the spaghetti at the wall, getting myself so out of alignment, trying to find all the answers from outside me instead of realizing that I hold it all within, right? And the like time gap. And so our fumbles, and to anybody listening, yours the same, you're then going to help support people in collapsing that time so that like you're now everything you've been through, all of this that you've now brought into it's so you can support your clients to not fumble quite as much maybe as you did, right? Again, they're going to have to like we can't just look at it and go, we're going to have this perfect, we're going to launch this perfect business and this perfect, offer or course or program or whatever, and it's just all going to be perfect because it's not. Like reality is it doesn't exist, and if we're waiting for perfection, we're just never going to do. And so we got to take the step first and again. But by having that ability that you can help people maybe not fumble quite as much, right? Like our fumbles allow us to be able to then help other people collapse the time so that they're not fumbling as long. Because I mean, I'll be real here. I'm always very real on all of my things and everything like that. Like keep it totally. At one point, I fumbled for, I will say, too long. I did. It was too much in the tools and the throwing the spaghetti at the wall and everything to the point that I was like, oh, what's happened to my income? And where is my business gone? Because I got so off track. But that allows me to be able to say, to spot that for my clients way, way before they get into that space or whatever, and, bring them back to themselves. Like, you don't need to search for 4,000 answers of how to post on social media and grow your business and get clients. Like, it's not needed. Like, let's zero it back to you. So, but yeah, this yesterday it came through. So it was like collapsing the time for people so that they don't have to maybe struggle as much as, they could or we did or whatever. But I mean, all of it's part of a journey. And I mean, I've learned that. I've given myself so much grace for any of these things. And I know, again, I kind of had to experience some of that. So maybe I can spot it in other people and help other people from a space of, you know, once we've been there, done that, you've embodied it, then you're able to support at a different level, right?
Absolutely. And I feel like every time I have actually nailed it the first time, it was a glorious accident. And then I learned very little. I didn't actually get better. It was beginner's luck. And then I could not repeat it and I couldn't coach people on it. And I think that's actually one of the biggest issues with a lot of people who've had like a meteoric rise to success is they don't know how to sustain it and then it crashes. Or they'll become a coach and they'll try to teach what they did. But because they didn't make a lot of mistakes along the way, they can't identify them, like you're saying, for other people. So they're not actually effective as a coach or a guide because they're like, well, just do what I did. But things go awry. That's
Yeah.
the whole thing that happens. So you're a much better coach, teacher, leader, guide if you have screwed up more times than a beginner has ever tried. That's actually the mastery path, right? The
Yeah.
fail forward.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, this might be slightly controversial, but there is this thing in the coaching, healing type industry where it's like, just do this course over the weekend and become a coach, and then you can coach other people how to coach it, or be your healer, do your Reiki training, and then you can do, and it's like, I mean, you can 100%. But that doesn't teach you how to actually operate a business. All that that's teaching you is how to coach and coaching other people how to then launch their own coaching business or their own healing. But like there needs to be more depth to it. And that's one of the biggest problems. And as I said, slightly controversial, but there is a little bit of this coaches coaching coaches on how to coach other coaches thing that has somewhat happened. And nobody's actually embodying it. Like coach people for a while before, run your business for a while before you decide to just duplicate and get somebody, to be doing that same thing. again, like we really have to embody our work, ground it in, and really become solid in it before doing the like, okay, let me bring other people. You can't do a weekend training and then like next week be I'm gonna be supporting other coaches on how to launch their coaching business or grow their coaching business. No, you embodiment needs to happen. So as I said, slightly
So
controversial, but like
that should not be controversial. That
it
should not be
shouldn't.
controversial. That's where all the like coaching MLM things come from. I knew that I was going to be a coach of some kind when I first heard that word in my early 20s. And it wasn't until my late 30s that I actually, stepped into that full time because I spent years facilitating and there was some coaching on the side. But honestly, I do have a certification program where I teach people facilitation tools, how to coach, how to bring people through transformational journeys. And I built that about 4 or 5 years ago, but it's based on almost 20 years of experience in a few different places and spaces. But I also trained with all of these women, spent tens of thousands of dollars and years at a time downloading all of the mistakes and information that they had. And they were all in their 60s and they gave me their 30 years of experience. So, I have so much of that wisdom and then the embodied experience that, yeah, it does piss me off when people who have, I don't know, they're like a year into their spiritual journey, just had an awakening and they're wanting to train people. And in the business side of things and the spiritual side of things. And I was like, oh, you don't know what you don't know. But you
Yeah,
don't have the conscious competence or even the unconscious competence that's like intuitive at this point yet because you haven't walked the path. The
yeah.
embodiment is the sexy part. And I'm so glad it's a conversation now. I called myself a soul embodiment guide when I brought my business online in 2019. When people went, what's that? And I was like, it's in the name. Like, what
Yeah.
do you mean? What's that? Like, it's literally embodying your soul. Well, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't even, I can define it for you, but I shouldn't have to. It should be obvious. And then now fast forward to today, like it's a trending word, and I'm glad about that because like it's so necessary, and it's one of the missing keys for humanity to actually be able to do the things that we want to do.
Yeah. Well, so I resisted the word coach for so long. And I'd meet people and they'd be like, what do you do? And I'd be like, well, I blah, 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 because I wouldn't want to use, and they'd be like, oh, are you like a business coach or are you like a life coach? And I was like, well, no, no. I finally accepted that it's a simple term for people to understand. I mean, I am so much more than that. I utilize kind of the word, it actually channeled in, but I'm a soul activator because that's what I do. But again, so goes so much deeper than that, but it's still the same kind of thing. Some people are like, you're what? Like, what does that mean? So but the idea of calling myself a coach, because I was like, I am not that. I am not that coaching coaches, the whole MLM pyramid type coaching thing that seemed to start happening. I was like, that's not me. No, no, no. And I didn't want to be associated with it so much that I resisted what truly I do. And again, my post-secondary education is entrepreneurship and small business. That's what I went to school for. And I have 25 years experience running small businesses as an entrepreneur. So if there's anybody that could kind of take that business coach hat, it would probably be me. But I was still so resistant. I actually did a post about it. I was like, okay, finally, like, fine, yes. But just because of the what was happening there. I was again so resistant. But I mean, as I introduced myself, right? I'm an intuitive business coach. That is a hat that I wear. Um, but yeah, I still will do the if somebody I'm like, well, yes, but I'm not that kind of coach. Like that's really what I have to say. But it's strange that I should have to say that. Instead, I should just be like, no, because so quite often sometimes I'll use the word strategist. Like I really utilize that for quite a while. But again, I don't feel it lands the same because I'm not the coaching and the strategy side. It's so much more in that energetics and again, it's so hard to put a label on sometimes what it is that we do. Like when people say, "Well, what do you do? Introduce." You can't do that in 5 seconds. Can't just give it a short little title that fits so perfectly, like in your bio on your social media, to truly explain what those of us who are so beautifully no, I see now I can't say it. Multidisciplined in what it is that we do and who it is that we are, right?
Absolutely. That little bio blurb is the one I've changed the most. And because it is ever evolving, for me, it depends on the season that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I'm creating this personal and professional development for healers and light workers like institute that like it is big and it's gonna be full of breath and it is growing with me. So I hated doing that, and I also know the clearer we can be, the better. And also, I don't know if you ever found this. So, yes, speaking to it in really clear terms, and I rejected the word coach for a long time too, because I was like, there's a lot of ick, but sometimes you have to take a word back and be like,
Yeah.
no, 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 this is what it's supposed to mean. And all of those people, they're doing it wrong. There's distortion there. So
I
that's
love
fine.
that.
That's a journey. I did that with light worker as well, because I was like, I'm not the love and light bypassing. I'm the like, you know, let's anchor in divine love and light that is the most powerful creation and healing tool in the whole multiverse. Like that's the light work that I do. So to reclaim that, I reclaimed coach, and also just I dumbed it down too much on my journey to be as clear as possible. And because I work with people who are not at the beginning stage, they actually don't resonate when I am too basic. And I needed to find the sweet spot where those people that have that ability to feel the frequencies of words and the energy could still hear me, and they could understand that we're not talking about beginner basic stuff for business and facilitation and coaching, all of that. So there's this play with it of like what level are your people gonna vibe with? Because how I introduce myself to someone who's out of the industry is very different than somebody who I would talk to like you, or somebody who's an ideal client for me.
Yeah, yeah. And that's true. If I go to just a general like business networking thing, I introduce myself a lot different than maybe I do, and my bios, they're touching into it again, but and always changing too. And that's, I think, a really big lesson too that you just shared, like, that people should take. It's okay to constantly keep that updated. I mean, not only by what you've got going on, where you want to direct people, but even your title. Like, we are ever, oh, this is so strongly coming through. We are so ever evolving in who we are, which then equates to what we do. And it's okay to change up with your seasons, with your growth, with where your business direction is going, to change that stuff up. I mean, other than the fact that, so Instagram, I think, what it is, you can only, so your main name thing is twice every 14 days or something, I think along those lines. So I always do the whole, I'm like, okay, I got to be like good with this for a couple of weeks at least, but, you know, changing the stuff and allowing it to evolve and reflect who you are and what you do. And, as you said, the energy and the frequency. And I've found that in things, especially lately, because I've been so tuned in that when I'm in the brainstorming mode and the downloads are coming through and I'm doing and so I've had this spark and this idea for so long and I couldn't ground it. I couldn't, one of the things that was holding me back, and it seems so silly, but was the name. Like, what do I call it? Right? That wasn't there. And I've learned that things will come as they're meant to. But so last weekend, I think it was last weekend. I'm Canadian. It was our Thanksgiving last weekend. And so long weekend. And I never actually can take a weekend off. I'm usually working 7 days because I just love what I do, even if it's just writing a post or an email or just getting ideas out, whatever it is. I usually always do a little aspect of my work each and every day. And when you love what you do, that's really how it is, right? Because you just can't stop. But I was doing some stuff around this, and the the name and I was like, that's it. Years. I have been in the space of playing with this idea for years. And I kind of teased it out a little bit, but never really pushed with it because the name never quite landed. But this one, and I was like, that's it. Because, like you said, that frequency, the energy in that, I was like, that is it.
Mhm.
Like, that is it. And, and sometimes we'll have to fumble and play with things before it really, like, it really, really hits. But also, people can utilize somebody like yourself who can really, again, help them so they don't have to spend years with this idea that they had before it actually they can collapse that time, right? People can collapse the time of the fumbles if they want with somebody like yourself.
Yeah. And know that's the work that you do too. And so there's this, again, this dance too. And congrats on creating enough space energetically and having the time to let that drop in, because I know it does take patience. And I've had programs that I've like had gestating for years. And I just launched one that had like two different, this is the third name in my mind before it could actually go public, because the codes come with the name, right? Of like exactly the fine frequency and everything like that. And at the same time, I just want to caution people about changing too much too quickly, because I have been in programs that have changed too much too quickly, and I'm just like, oh, I don't have the grounded feeling that I want to have, and it can turn people off. So sometimes you have to be like slow to integrate changes. Say it's an evergreen program, like don't change everything all at once, or prepare people, or you need to have a way of mitigating that. And don't change your bio and your entire brand every 2 weeks because people that look and are observing you that might hire you can get the ick because there's not any stability there. So I wouldn't hire somebody that goes from I'm a divine feminine embodiment coach, now I'm a messaging coach, and now I'm in this, and now I'm in that, and it's like boom, 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 boom. Fine tune it, tweak it, of course, but like there's also a need for both, right? Evolution, but also the stability in it is the paradox that's so important.
Yeah. Okay. So I had to laugh because you're like changing. To me, that's the type of person who goes from like MLM to MLM. You're like, wasn't it last week you were selling this and now you're
Mm-hmm.
selling this and now you're doing like it's such confusing energy, such confusing
Mm-hmm.
energy. So I love that and thank you for kind of confirming. So I've always, if I was to look at my Instagram, I've always kind of played in so at one point I think I just said soul purpose mentor. And then I added in the business bit a little bit. And then it was like, again, brought in playing, but keeping it fairly stable, but just minor tweaks to it. The one place where I would change more would be maybe what my current offer is. So if I've got a program coming or a new freebie or somewhere I want to direct, that's what I would change. And that you
Mm-hmm.
can change regularly. But I love that just to give people that, yes, it's okay as we change and evolve, but to not, yes, not every 2 weeks that you're just
Yeah.
doing, or you're going to be that person who who every week is starting a different MLM business and selling some different type of product. And you're like, hey, I can't keep up. I thought you were just selling bags a week ago, and now you're selling makeup, and then it's skincare, and now it's jewelry, and it's this, and health stuff. And you're like, who, what?
Well, at this point, become a lifestyle brand. So you have the overarching umbrella, and then you can sell everything underneath it. So I have this same thing where, it's I have so many offerings, but it's because I'm here to create this actual like think like Mind Valley,
Yeah.
where there's a bunch of different offerings and other things like that. That's where I'm headed. So I had to find the umbrella that could organically and naturally hold all of the offerings. And I personally, just so it's not everything all the time, I try to focus on things in seasons, and in rhythms and things like that. And that feels really good to me. So if you are somebody who is wanting to have all of the things, you got to find the through line, right? And then like bring that umbrella in so it all makes sense and it's cohesive.
Oh, I like that. Okay. I, one of my biggest struggles when I stepped into this kind of work a little bit was so I had learned the main modality framework, but there was all these aspects. So using
Mhm.
it for business, using it for healing, using it to go into the future and see the possibility in everything energetically, and then using it for manifesting, right? And creating and shifting vibrationally. And then, like, past life, present life, healing relationships, 5D, 4D, 3D, all the things. And I was like, 4,000 different readings that I could do. And which I know then equates to my clients, I was so confused. And the best thing that I did, and maybe I'm sharing this because it can be a little example to somebody. So the business that I had launched right after I had had my first baby. So this was my second business because the other one that I had required me to more go and support clients in their location. And I wanted something that I could be home with him. Um, so that business, I customized everything to my client. So this year, again, after all that time fumbling and jumping into I will say, even a year-long mastermind big business thing that changed. It was supposed to be this kind of structure, and it's the reason that I jumped into it. And let's just say about 5 months in, it completely changed. And I was like, I just spent how much? Over like into the five-figure number for this year-long each month type, and you've gone after 5 months and completely overhauled and changed it. That was a good point that you had. But anyways, and so this year I came into the whole, and it's like that beautiful marrying of that very successful business that I had created to what I do now. And it's like, so when people ask, I'm like, what is it? Where are you and where do you want to be? You don't need to worry about this type of reading or that type of reading. Again, creating my own methodology from the trainings and the frameworks and all of that I learned, and bringing it into like, okay, so I'm going to create something for you. So if you're more focused on if we need to deal with some of the stuff from the past, because maybe some of that, you've got some stuff in your DNA that's holding you, whatever it might be, right? But bringing it, and that just creates this like, again, it's like I brought all the umbrella, everything, and I just brought it down. And it's like, it's this, and
Mhm.
it makes it so much better for me too. Like,
Mhm.
I was trying to kind of force myself to fit into this thing that wasn't working for me. And instead I had to give myself permission to take that and make it my own.
I love it. And this is one of the things that I love helping people do. You've already done it, but you're just like validating the next offering that I'm sharing because I have this transformational journey facilitator training that can help anybody, even if they're at the beginning of their journey, learn stuff. But I learned over the years who was most successful at it. And it was people who had already some healing modalities or ways that they could do things under their belt, and then I could just help them go from doing single sessions into taking people on sacred journeys, whether that's group workshops or bringing in the journey aspect. So they're taking someone from point A to point B. And yeah, thank you for that lovely validation because that's the season I'm moving into and promoting. I was like, yes, I know that that's what the people that get the best results too. So that's a fun conversation as well. That is a mistake that I've made was saying like this could help everybody, and it could, but people who would step into this particular training of mine, a 7-month certification, who weren't quite ready, they would be thrown into their own personal development work instead of being able to take the stuff and then turn it into more into their business. So like, I mean, those are mistakes that we make along the way, refining our ideal clients, who can get the most out of it, where we want to take people, where we're capable of taking people. And sometimes people get so afraid to make promises. I would get afraid to make promises. So I'm like, well, it depends on where they are and where they're going. But when I learned how to talk to the person who was going to get the most out of this, instead of just being like, yeah, I can help anybody, which I can, but not with all the same things at the
Yeah.
same time, it just changed my game too. So and that's a process you can only refine with practice and experience and making the mistakes and screwing it up and then being like, this one, this here, and then fine tuning it as you go.
Yeah. Get out there, start doing, and then you will start to see, right? But if we sit back and we think, okay, well, I'm not going to launch it until it's like super perfect. It's never going to be super perfect. In your mind, it's never going to be enough. And so don't, do the things and yeah, like you talked about. I mean, obviously you're not going to launch a high level expensive program that people are going to jump into and then be like, yeah, do that. That kind of a thing. But you could always launch a beta test of something. Like I just recently did that, right? And so the people got it at a super crazy discount because they are in taking the ride of a little bit of the development with me, right?
Hmm.
And then obviously the next round. And yes, things will change. And I mean, you see it all the time. People will do the where they, create a program, especially if they don't have it running evergreen all the time, but they do launches. And each launch and the people who were in it in the beginning, they can get back into it again, right? Like they're automatically into the next iteration of it to be able to take it again, and anything new that comes into it, then they get that and stuff like that. So which is something that I personally love, and that's what I made the decision as well to do with anything that I kind of create. It's like once you're in it, like if you get lifetime access, if I do it again and add another layer to it because maybe something new has channeled through from me to add to it or whatever it might be, or I've decided to refine it, make it better and everything like that, then those original people, they just get to experience that addition as well too. So I mean, the permission to just do it how it feels best for us. That's the other thing too, which in the business world, we don't do business by what feels good, but that should be the number one thing. Is what you do every day, does it light you up? Does what you're launching excite you? Do you feel that energy in it? If not, then maybe don't throw it out there and fumble your way. Maybe you do need to refine or work with somebody like yourself to, whatever, like jump into something to help you. But if you feel good in it, just start, because you know what? Even the best people, I've seen it. You get an email from somebody and you think to yourself, that email and you sent and the link was what, I mean, it happens to the best of us. It shows we're human. And as I said, we're gonna make mistakes. Like, and it's
Hmm.
part of it. And it shows the other people out there that it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe it helps give them the confidence that they can do before, because I tell people all the time, you need courage before confidence, because they're waiting for the confidence to put themselves out there. It's not going to come. You're going to constantly
Hmm.
be waiting. You have to just have the courage to take one little step. And then, you know what? And then you get a little, and then the next step and just, so I love like supporting people in following their passions. Like it's my passion.
I love that. And I love how you wove that in. It's like we can't be perfectionists and try to make it perfect before we put it out. I'm a big fan of monetize before you make it and beta test. And then, typically you refine as you go. And then maybe you can even create something that's a self study when you've mastered that, or that's got more pre recorded versus live content, because it just grows and evolves and then you move on to the next thing. But I wanted to also say the piece around, but you also need to make sure that you are not basically saying that if it's not lighting me up and it's not super easy, it's not aligned, right? Just because it's hard and out of your comfort zone does not mean that it's wrong. So when you were talking about the courage before confidence, I'm like, yes, exactly. There it is. Because like new stuff is hard. And I think there's been almost too much focus in the business coaching industry telling people about the grace and the ease and oh my gosh, I was making it so hard, but it's actually easy. And then people can buy the ease, but it's going to be hard until it's easy. You need to put the hard work in and you need to build the muscle memory and build the confidence. And then you can be like, ah, yes, this is easy and magical.
Yes, because if not, you will fall victim. And I've seen it time and time again. And you'll fall victim to the whole, you can just sit back and just dream it and you're gonna make 10K a month like that in your first month. And then it doesn't happen for people. And what happens? Then they get discouraged and then they think maybe it's not meant for them. And then maybe they give up. Like entrepreneurship, running a business, it's not easy. Like,
Mhm.
don't by any means think because you know what? Yeah, it just means it's easy. It's not. It's why so many businesses fail. But they fail
Mhm.
because they gave up. I mean, really, the successful entrepreneurs, the successful business owners are only successful because they did not give up. Like they just kept at it, even when it was hard and everything like that. Because yes, you're right in the fact that it's just not this beautiful, you know, sunshine and rainbows and unicorns all the time of perfection and stuff. But yeah, there are aspects of it that are hard. Like I remember the first time that my mentor said to me, "Oh, you are supposed to be on video." And I was like, "No, thank you." If I would hear my voice like played back on my voicemail, I mean, back in once upon a time, I'm gonna age myself here, but when you had the answering machine that like played, and if I heard that, I cringed to hear my voice. To put myself on video so people could see me and hear my voice and be able to like pick up, oh my gosh, that I was like, no way, no way. But I started pushing. People would look at it now and they'd think to themselves, like, if anybody there, they look at my Instagram, they're like, there's no way. I'm like, but you understand that I said to start that 15-second, back when stories were only 15 seconds, unless you had a huge following. But that 15-second story for me to go on it and just actually show myself live was, but to speak on it, oh my gosh. Now, if I would have allowed the fact that that was hard for me to not do it, where would I be? Right? And so the sometimes the scary things, the hard things are the things that we need to do. We need to do. So yeah, it's not always I love how you reframe that because I definitely don't want people to think that, oh, well, if this is, no, it's we do not grow or expand by keeping in the same that we are, right? We have to evolve and expand and step out of our comfort zone. Yeah. Thank you for refining that.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. And it's so funny because everything we've talked about, we're like, oh, it's this. And also, it's also this, like because it's always going to be the whole spectrum in entrepreneurship and in life. Like it's the and also. And I think too many people have been like, oh no, it's just this one thing. We were talking about that specialization and marketing saying, just do this and then you'll get that. And it's never one thing, it's everything. And that brings us into that understanding of like how the holistic whole ass human and business and energetics and strategy, it all has to come into divine union. So I
Yeah.
love how this conversation has been just giving all of these examples of that.
Yeah, you're right. It's not black and white. It is all of these shades of gray that
And the
it is.
rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh, oh my gosh, Kacie, we could talk. I'm looking at the time, and I always set the goal to have these like 20, 30 minutes, and they end up being longer because I get people like yourself on here who the conversation is just it flows and like the whole thing it's just meant to be this, it's meant to be just wherever
Mhm.
the conversation goes in the unscripted and us bouncing off of each other and everything. But honestly, we could probably sit and talk for so much longer, because I
Mhm.
feel like we've only just kind of scratched the surface for people, right? But hopefully we've given them enough and that inspired them and all of that because that's always my goal. So I really don't want to sign off, but also really respectful of people's time and everything like that. But like honestly, this has just been absolutely fantastic. So before I formally sign off, please share how people can contact you, like all of your things, because I'm sure that there's going to be so many people who are going to want to connect with you to work with you, to just get into your space, because I really feel like what you're doing is absolutely incredible.
Mm. I had such a great time. This is my favorite stuff to talk about. And we really are doing the same thing in a just slightly different way, in our own way, which also just goes to show how, like, we need all hands on deck and there's space for everybody, especially when people do it their own unique alchemical blend, creating their own systems and structures. But like, I work with all of the things you're talking about: the business, the soul gifts, the energetics, the structures, the strategies, the DNA, the Akashic, the like, all of it, because yeah, we need to be able to weave this stuff into whatever the person needs to go from point A to point B. So I will share, because I am constantly evolving, and always offering new ways to play and work with me. The easiest place is to go to my kacieknight.com/links space, and that's where you'll get my latest, like, free offerings. You can come and play. I do love master classes, but I also have my free frequency upgrade academy there, which is a small course with my favorite magical tools to help you reconnect to that soul energy and divine flow. And you can activate your soul field, which is so great if you're an entrepreneur, because it makes you magnetic on camera. It's great for manifesting. It's great for not feeling like you need to shield yourself. Like, it's, if I say, though, it's good for all of these things, it almost sounds too good to be true, but it's one of my favorite magical tools. And yeah, just all of my socials and everything are on there as well. So that's a fun place to tap into the energy and come play.
Wonderful. It will all be in the description, like, so the links make it super easy for people, as well too, because but I know sometimes, especially if people are listening to this while they're driving or doing whatever, and they're like, I need to go and find her now. I just want to make that super easy for people. So, um, oh, again, thank you. Thank you so much to Kacie. And to everybody who listened, thank you so much for tuning into Soul Unscripted. This is the Soul Led Entrepreneur edition. And so if something in today's conversation lit something up in you, I would love for you to share it. So you can tag me on Instagram at Lindsay Grace, at the Lindsay Grace. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what my thing is. Somebody has the other. I haven't looked actually recently, but somebody had it and they weren't using it. I was like, that's me. But anyways, I've totally opened and been like, yeah, the Lindsay Grace is me. So because I would love to know people's biggest takeaway, or throw it in the comments, whatever. So um yes, again, thank you. And until next time, everybody, stay grounded, stay aligned, and keep letting your soul lead, because that's where the beauty is.